Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a random smattering of items. I can't really pinpoint any particular one for you because it's going to be a long day, but I am beginning the end of my unique item series. It's actually kind of sad to see it go, but I'm also excited to see it go because I have some other really nice ideas for some pretty cool series. So I hope you'll join me for those. As of right now, just to give you guys a little bit of a count of like what I'm looking at as far as like finishing off the series, there's really not a whole lot left. There is one missing throwing item. That is Wraith Flight, which for some reason I missed. There is only 3 missing pole arms, which isn't really that bad. And there are quite a few missing spears, 5 missing spears. There are 7 missing staves, so we're going to have to go over a lot of staves. 3 missing shields or more. I actually didn't really count them all. I think it was a lot more than 3, now that I think about it. There was 1 missing belt, which was the String of Ears. We're going to go over that first. And 1 missing helmet, as well as 1 missing piece of jewelry, and 2 special items that were missing. I never did a Hellfire Torch, and I never did a video on the facets, so we'll be doing both of those. I think altogether I'm only like 20 or so videos from finishing this series, so I hope you will join me on my journey, my completion of my video Holy Grail. Without further ado, though, let's get into the String of Ears. Now, the String of Ears is one of the best belts in the game. Maybe not for everybody, but it definitely is a very awesome belt for a large number of players. And the String of Ears has some very nice stats, and we're going to go over those together. So it is a Demonhide Sash, of course. It is the lowest tier of the elite bases, which does mean that it has an extremely low strength requirement of only 20. Sorry, exceptional base, the lowest of the exceptional bases. It has 113 defense as a Demonhide Sash with a total of level requirement of only 29, which is absolutely insane. For how good the String of Ears is, it's actually kind of insane that it's a level 29 Sash. Its main competitor is Verdungo's. Now, Verdungo's does edge out against String of Ears in certain situations, especially those involving characters that don't necessarily do any kind of melee or ranged attacks. However, when it comes to melee or ranged characters, the String of Ears is superior. And for this reason, the String of Ears is kind of insane because Verdungo's is a much higher level item. And on top of that, String of Ears is just kind of like a best in slot piece for a lot of characters, depending on your build. It has a pretty massive 8% lifesteal, which at level 29 is just kind of insane. 8% lifesteal at level 29 is unmitigated, by the way. So in normal difficulty, which is where you could put this on at level 29, the Sash literally gives you all the lifesteal that you would need. You don't need any more than 8% in normal difficulty. Now, there are penalties in Nightmare and Hell difficulty, and those do make the 8% lifesteal a little less amazing. But still, it's all right. We also have a pretty massive defense bump here of 180%, but it does vary from 150 to 180%. And then we also have just a static plus 15 defense, which is added on top. And then we have a very nice damage reduced by of 10 to 15%. Now, this is kind of like the main thing on this particular belt, is that damage reduced by. So you really kind of want one that has 15%. All the rest of the modifiers on this, like the 8 lifesteal and even the magic damage reduced, aren't really the most important, but that damage reduced by number is the most important. Now, obviously, if you could have a perfect String of Ears, that would even be better. The magic damage reduced by also varies from 10 to 15. So a perfect String of Ears would be an 8% lifesteal, 15% DR, 15 magic damage reduced by. Now, magic damage reduced by is actually extremely good for helping you counter small damage effects that happen on a regular basis. So, for instance, if you were getting attacked by, say, someone who is lightning enchanted, the 15 magic damage reduced is going to reduce every single hit of the lightning enchantment by 15. And since they're not relatively high damage hits, but they are just kind of like ridiculously, fast in their speed, it's going to reduce every single hit by 15. So magic damage reduced by works really good on small hits that happen frequently as opposed to large hits that happen infrequently. Whereas damage reduced by, which is the physical damage reduction, works very well versus big hits. That's going to take a nice little chunk off of that hit before it comes into contact with you. So we have a very defensive belt here. It has lifesteal, which is very defensive. It has defense, which is very defensive. It has magic damage reduced by, which is very defensive, and it has a damage reduced by 15%, which is also very defensive. Now, damage reduced by has a cap of 50%, and you can bring this up all the way up to 50%, and anything over 50% is essentially useless. However, when you are cursed by the Amplify damage or the Decrepify curse, this damage reduced by can actually have an effect of overprotection. So let's say, for instance, I was at 75% damage reduced by utilizing multiple pieces of equipment, and somebody curses me with a Amplify damage curse. I will now be reduced by 100%. But because I have overprotected myself by 15%? My quick math is absolutely terrible. So 50% to 75 is 25%. So you've overprotected yourself by 25%. The Amplified Damage Curse is reducing your physical resistance by 100%, which means that now you are at negative 25 because the curse has brought down your 50 to 0. It has brought your 25 down to 0 as well, so we are now basically still at 0, and there is still 25% of the Amplified Damage Curse to be applied, so you go into the negative by 25%. So having an additional 25% over top of the 50 will actually help you versus curses. However, it will do nothing if you are not cursed. So keep in mind that overprotection doesn't do anything unless you are actually in a situation where that overprotection can come in handy. So Amplify Damage and Decrepify. Now, keeping that in mind, Amplify Damage is like one of the most common curses, I think, like in the entire game. And Decrepify is literally spammed by quite a few monsters, including Bale. And Bale loves to spam that stupid curse. So, keep in mind that the overprotection is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, we also have the ethereal version, which is 160 defense, and it has an even lower strength requirement of only 10, because, of course, it is ethereal, and it gains that negative 10 to all stat requirement bonus that ethereal items get. Now, the downside, of course, of the String of Ears in the ethereal version is that, well, you can't use it in melee combat. Now, one thing that you could use it for is PvP. But I don't really see a good use case scenario for it in PvP because one of the main strengths of String of Ears over Verdungo's is the fact that it has the lifesteal. Well, Verdungo's doesn't have lifesteal, but then again, lifesteal doesn't really work very well in PvP anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. Between the two, Verdungo's definitely has its own specific advantages. Now, the beauty of String of Ears is that we can also upgrade it to its highest tier and get a little bit more defense out of it. And it's actually not a terrible upgrade. To do this, you're going to need a Lem, and you're going to need a Co. And this is going to upgrade us to the Elite tier. And I believe that is the Spiderweb Sash, if I remember correctly. And that is going to go from 113 defense, 20 strength requirement, level 29, to 183 defense, 50 strength requirement, level 53. As you can see, the upgrade to its elite tier does not actually do very much at all to hurt this item as a very nice item to put on characters. Level 53 is not really a huge bump, considering it went to an elite form. A lot of elite form items will go to like 60 or maybe even 70. Some elite form items can go as high as level 80. So having a level 53 is certainly fine. And 50 strength requirement is honestly more than enough for most melee and ranged characters. And honestly, you could pop this on spellcasters too for an easy 15% damage reduction. Granted, the lifesteal would go to waste, and Verdungo's might be a better choice. But, I mean, you got 15 MDR and 15% DR, which could come in handy maybe for an energy shield sorceress, because that 15 DR is actually pretty sexy. Now, the ethereal version can also be upgraded using the same Lem, Co, and Perfect Diamond. And that is going to go from the String of Ears Demonhide Sash Ethereal 160, 10 strength, level 29, to 267, 40 strength, level 53. And not a bad upgrade at all. Now, as far as characters go that can get good use out of this, I mean, honestly, just about any melee or ranged character can get good use out of this sash. Whether you are an Amazon who uses a bow or a spear or a javelin, or whether you're a paladin or a barbarian, a druid, like it really doesn't matter. Are you a melee sorceress? Then sure, why not? Because String of Ears is just an amazing sash, especially if you find it in its perfect condition. And I think that's where the String of Ears really shines, is because you can find it in some pretty crappy conditions. Like you could find a 10% DR, 10 MDR, 6 life stolen per hit, 150% enhanced defense String of Ears, and it might necessarily, not be something that you would want to hang on to. But if you ever found an 8%, 15-15 with a 180 defense, you've got yourself a diamond in the rough there. Now, as far as the String of Ears goes, how hard is it to find? That's a good question. So let's go over to Silo's Pen and let's see if we can figure out where we can find this beauty and if we can find it on level. All right, so here we are over on Silo's Pen, and we're going to be taking a look at the String of Ears. We're going to do about 100% magic find since it's only level 29. I feel like that's a pretty fair amount. And as far as the String of Ears goes, when we're looking at bosses, we're definitely looking at non-quest mobs and Dariel in Nightmare difficulty at 1 in 613. Now, that might not necessarily be the lowest level option, but that does seem to be the best probability. However, Bale in normal difficulty has a 1 in 631, and while he's a terrible farming option, you could be EXPing him at level 29 to try and get yourself leveled up, and if he happens to drop the String of Ears for you, that would definitely be very nice. Let's take a look really quickly at super uniques. And as far as probability goes, we are looking at Nightmare Cow King at 1 in 1,754. A lot of Nightmare options that are kind of outside of reach, but we do have the Countess here at 1 in 6,202. So if you were farming the Nightmare Countess for runes, which is most likely what you're doing, and she drops you a String of Ears, that would definitely be nice. And we also have normal Neelathak at 1 in 7,033, so not bad at all. That's actually a pretty good farming spot. Also, we have Nightmare Treehead Woodfist, Nightmare Rockanishu, Nightmare Bone Ash, Nightmare Beetle Burst. All those are pretty good options for low-level farming. And in fact, Nightmare Bonebreaker and Bishy Bosh and Cold Crow and Corpse Fire. Wow, these are all really good options. It does seem like to me that that you would be able to get your hands on a String of Ears relatively easily. Of course, you could always make your own by PvPing some people and getting your own set of ears. There's really not a lot more to say about the String of Ears. It did actually make it into my top unique items list, my top 16 unique items, because it really is just an amazing item. Whether you are working it into a very specific build, or whether you find it by accident as you're leveling up, or you luck into it on a solo self-found character, String of Ears is definitely a nice one to get your hands on, no matter what character you're on, because it is a very nice defensive item which can help keep you alive. Now, offensively, it really doesn't do a lot for your character, and if you are going for a more offensive build, then String of Ears may not necessarily be the item that you would want to pick. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are counting our ears, and as always, keep watching.